On the eve of today, we saw rioters on the West Coast tearing down statues of American giants like Honest Abe and Teddy Roosevelt. So what is it about today, Columbus Day, that sends leftists into a frenzy?
Well, it's a classic example of that phenomenon where, the left starts doing something insane and the right says, wait, if you start doing that, then there's going to be this progression, this natural logical progression. And then everyone laughs and says, oh, that's just the slippery slope fallacy. That would never happen. They'd never tear down statues of Lincoln, would they? And of course, it's been, I don't know, check your watch. How long has it been since they began tearing down statues? Now, of course, they're coming for the very heart of the American Republic. Why and why on Columbus Day? Well, let me say, first of all, I'm not going to spend a ton of time defending Christopher Columbus. That's been done very well and very effectively in the press today. If you read the Claremont Review of Books, you'll find a wonderful, masterful defense of him by Robert Royal, but there have been a number of others sort of out in the press. Columbus was an intrepid, self-made explorer, a model of determination and courage in a moment when, the West was under serious threat. Constantinople had fallen not terribly long ago, and this was in many ways, it was a way to save Christendom, to explore out into the world and to initiate this great expansion into the New World. Now, of course, did that come with certain moral difficulties, in fact, even certain moral atrocities? Yes. And this is why the left has now seized upon the lower moments in our history and some of the things that they just didn't know at the time, like that they might be spreading germs that indigenous people wouldn't be resistant to, which, by the way, is not something that they did intentionally in the way that you've been told. But in any case, it's not really about defending Columbus against all of these various charges. Because, of course, as we know, atrocities were the world over at this period in time. It was not the sort of decorous globalist utopia that we all like to believe will, come in the next 10 years or so. This was a rough and ready time. Columbus and those explorers who followed him discovered barbarous civilizations that participated in human sacrifice and slavery and all of the nasties that we now deplore, rightly, in the West, because Columbus founded this civilization that we now live in, or rather, he began the founding of the New World. So what is this? This is about tearing down that new world in the name of year zero, exactly as you said. It's the idea of sinlessness, this false notion that comes from an ignorance about really our Christian teaching and our Judeo-Christian teaching that this world is a fallen world. And if you don't know that, then you look at all the terrible things in our history and you say, well, how can this be good? How can we accept that the West is a thing of beauty and of wonder? But of course, the West is the only thing that has stood against the many atrocities that this world is heir to, that this flesh is heir to. And so when they start tearing down these statues, it's really because they have this idea of themselves as if they can get back to some purity and sinlessness, which unfortunately is just not forthcoming in the world. So it's, as you say, it's a very dangerous movement.
Exactly, and something that I find very interesting is that if we look over the past century, when we saw a lot of these Christopher Columbus statues first being erected in places such as New York, where there's large Italian populations, lots of Italian immigrants, who was it that initially was against the statues being up in the first place? It was the KKK. So it's interesting to me that the leftists of today are siding more and more with the actual racists, the actual segregationists of years past.